My sweet son Ethan warmed my heart the other day. We were watching SmackDown.
What he did?
Came on, and Randy Orton's one of his favorite wrestlers. He came out. Randy Orton did his thing, and afterwards, they had like the little graphics. I don't remember what specific graphic it was, but he looked at Randy Orton. And he was like, "Daddy, Randy Orton looks old." I said, "Well, son, you know that Randy and I we're close in age." And he looked at Randy Orton. He looked back at me. And he said, "Daddy, he looks much older than you." I said, "God bless you, son. God bless you. Stay sweet."
That boy is kissing up already. What did he want? Was it like a
That's the thing. He didn't ask for anything afterwards, so I'm like, all right.
But he got one in the chamber though, don't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm sure he's learning.
Planting the seed.
I'm sure he's my son, so I'm sure he's tucking one away.
Orton looks like a grizzled vet, is what he looks like, right? So, and that RKO was tremendous. I was telling Rhodesia, it's like I wonder, I could just like see them in the middle of the ring, of course, before doors open and they're going through spots, and him kind of just talking through what that may look like, and KO. I bet that was a moment, because that RKO was pretty fantastic. They are hitting on all cylinders, man. They are. Wrestling is in an incredible spot. I know I say it like every single week, but if you're not at least trying each promotion out to see if you like it, you're missing out. Get on it, because 2024 has been off to a banger, and it don't look like it's stopping anytime soon. And we not stopping no time soon either, because we are, what is this? This is episode 113, Rhodesia. You good with the episode numbers? Which one are we on right now?
114.
114 episode of the TFW podcast. That's Freakin Wrestling. You've already heard from 2 out of 3 of us. Eshaun got some points that he's going to have to figure out with his family over there, talking about how young he looks in the face and the body. How is that body? Last episode, you were struggling a little bit. How we feeling today?
Oh, I'm still struggling. I guess whatever medication I was taking, I had an allergic reaction to it. So I broke out in hives, and Big Dad's itchy all week long. So I've been sore, itchy. So I said to hell with it this morning, man. I couldn't be in pain. I said, you know what? I deal with the itch. Give me that pain. Put that back in my veins. So
put that pain back in the veins.
That's
how you should be a rapper.
So
speaking of pain in the veins, y'all see they included Brock back onto the active roster on WWE.com?
I did not see that.
I did not.
I didn't go verify to make sure, but I saw it enough online yesterday that I believe it. Like if you go to the active roster, they had pulled him off, so he wasn't shown at all. He's there now.
Rhodesia, you know what to do.
Yep,
get
them Googles. Rhodesia's in the house. What is going on, lady? How are you?
I'm doing good.
Why all so sexy and seductive? What is?
It's just because it's still early, so this is just my early sexy voice.
We lost an hour. We lost an hour, man.
Yep, this is my 900 voice.
Because I felt like, man, I must have really slept in. Well, I kind of did. I usually get up around 8. But I woke up and it was like 9:30. I'm like, shit.
Yep.
So, I'm doing my thing. I'm just getting dressed, taking my shower. So then, when I got to the microwave and to the oven, it said 10:30. I'm like, oh, shit. We lost a gosh dang hour.
We sure did. We were up watching the UFC pay-per-view last night, and I think that ended at like 12:30 Central Time, which was like 1:30 Eastern Time. So, of course, it switches at 2 a.m. and then it jumps to 3 a.m. So I was like, I'm trying to be asleep before I see that hour, because that always kind of like freaks me out a little bit. Even when I was younger watching ECW, back on Pass Sports, back in the day in Detroit. Shout out to anybody who knows about Pass Sports. You are a GOAT. You are a legend. But I remember on Saturdays, ECW used to come on at 2 a.m. So when we would get like the newspaper, the TV guide, that was the only way you could be able to tell what was coming on. This is way before they had the electronic guides on television. You young whippersnappers, you guys don't know about having to get that paper every weekend to see what is coming up on television every single day. But I would be worried, like, okay, there is no 2 a.m. It's like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Is ECW going to be on? And if I'm not mistaken, I think we missed ECW in those weeks, because I think that's how they made up for the hour. So
I was just about to ask you, so then what time did it really come on? But
yeah, I know for a fact one year, it skipped and it didn't come on at all. And I was like, I stayed up for this and I went to sleep. I was upset. But all good now. We ain't got to worry about that. They figured that out some way, somehow. I am Matt, so we got 3 the hard way, of course. in the house. We got a great show online for you guys today. I'm excited to talk about SmackDown. We got to start there, of course. We have to start with the main event segment of SmackDown, and that it was the accepting of the tag match from Rock and Roman to Cody and Seth. I think my first question to you guys has nothing to do with the segment, and we can get into the segment. If you were going to WrestleMania, you could only go to one day, and you got to make your decision today on which day you're going to, night 1 or night 2. Is it even a question for you guys? Or with having this tag match at night 1 with Rock's first real match and who knows how long, setting the table for what is going to be on night 2, is it like a hard question for you guys? Because it was for me initially. I'm thinking like, as much of a Rock fan as I am, man, do I miss seeing Rock in the ring wrestle for the first time in forever in the main event? But I think I still would have to go with night 2 because we get Cody Roman. We get the shenanigans that I hope we get. And then we also still get Drew and Seth as the co-main. So as of right now, I think I would do night 2. What do you guys say?
It's never a hard question for me when it comes to WrestleMania night 1, night 2. This might have been the closest to me considering, let me think about it, but still within a millisecond, it's still night 2. That's the culmination of everything. So no matter what happens on night 1, you could have probably a better quote unquote card for night 1. We still know that there's still going to be stories to wrap up and or sprout and begin come night 2.
Absolutely. You know Cody needs Big Daddy in attendance to, or at the TV screens, because we got to finish the story.
I would say you go to Mania. We
got to finish the story. Hey, actually, I thought about it, to be honest with you. I'm like, shit, I might need to get there. He might need my energy for this one, you know what I'm saying? Because we going all out. We finished the story. This is what we worked for our whole career. This is what we worked for. This moment at WrestleMania. Absolutely, I got to finish that story. We're doing it for the daddies.
Anybody that would go night 1, let me know. Or if you would do night 2, let us know. And, of course, we'll talk about it on the next pod. But, yeah, I was looking like that's a massive – because, of course, for the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they're going to push it as the biggest match in WrestleMania. Well, they won't say biggest match in WrestleMania history because they'll make sure not to take away from Roman
Cody
and
Roman,
next
yeah.
night.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be interesting to see what the tagline is. Because, like, Rock keeps saying the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Okay, but that's not really speaking to their match specifically. And I don't think you want to say biggest tag match in history just because I don't know if you want to undermine that. But you could do that because it is. This is probably the biggest tag match in WrestleMania history outside of, like, the original WrestleMania. Just because, like, that's setting the groundwork. But it's going to be fun. So then let's talk about that segment. Thoughts? Because I got a lot of them. So I'll throw it to you guys and listen to you guys, and then I can retort. But what was your guys' thoughts on them running long? Some markets didn't even get the slap or Rock's line of "you were a mistake," which, see, everybody that talked last week about y'all complained because other segments was cut. And like I said, I get that, but this is where the money's at with those 4 guys for WrestleMania. They put them in the main event segment. Rock went long again. So luckily here in the Chicago market, we got a chance to see the line, the smack. Then it went off the air. But yeah, in some markets, I think Rock was in the middle of talking still, and then it cut. So, but we got to see everything. It's over like, I think, 2.5 million views on YouTube already over like 48 hours. But what was your guys' thoughts about that main event segment?
To address that runoff, I wonder for those people who are not just completely biased about Rock taking the spotlight from talent, younger talent. I wonder how they, though not those people, the other people, how they feel not being able to see the full bloodline ending of it versus a match being cut. I really like to see what they really think. Because for me, I'll be more mad if it went off and Rock was talking, 100%. But as far as the actual promo itself, I was probably more hype on Cowboy Rock 10, 11-minute video on YouTube. And then I'm telling you, and we talked about this for a millisecond, I still feel like Seth seemed like the afterthought in that whole exchange. And I know you said he was the one who verbally accepted it. But to me, like, who doesn't belong? You know, the games you used to play or the IQ test, what doesn't belong here? And it felt like Seth. And I feel bad because I love Seth. That's the only things I got out of that.
I really enjoyed it. I was able to see the ending. It went off right after the slap for me. But I watch on Sling, so I don't actually know where I'm getting the feed from. I'm not sure if it's Atlanta or Texas, because sometimes it seems like it kind of switches. But really good though. Really enjoyable. Man, when we talk about That's Freakin' Wrestling, that's it, man. Like, you got some stars that was in the building, you know, right? Yep. And you love to see like the energy from the crowd. Like they had them, and I understand what you're saying about Seth Rhodesia, but I thought Seth, that was one of the stronger showings of him. He came across passion. The crowd was into him. They sung his little song before it started. Like we want to talk about. Yeah, they did the diarrhea chant. Like, you were talking about the totality. You got, Rock, Roman, Cody, the biggest names in the business right now, right? And then there's Seth. But I think Seth did okay in that segment. I think he looked and came across strong, and the crowd gave it up for him. So he did all right. And if he can continue to hold his own like that, I think he'll do just fine. I hope this kind of gives him additional rub going into it. But I'm really excited for night one. I didn't think they were going to give us a double doses of these guys in 2 nights back to back, because Roman don't wrestle but once or twice a year, so we get it twice in a weekend. It's going to be phenomenal. I think that's exactly what wrestling was. It was charisma. It was charismatic. It was electric, as he always says. I was here for every minute of it.
Man, that his new entrance, Rock's entrance,
electric
entrance of the year. Like, he's starting to figure it out. He already had the wrestling bug, but it just feels like week after week, it's getting more back into him, and he's really starting to hit a good groove. And that entrance was like, that's what we're here for the most part, anyway.
It was reminiscent for me, real quick. His entrance, it was a Mania. Let's just say 19 for the hell of it, of Undertaker, and he had the lightning strike, that one strike that hit the bottom of the stage, and then that's when he came up, and I thought that was everything. Watching that Rock entrance, I had to go back and watch it a couple of times, because I'm like, what are we seeing here? I can only imagine how it looked in person on the big Titantron screens of it going back and forth. That shit gives me goosebumps just even thinking about it right now.
He killed it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But to set the Seth point, I actually think this is the best Seth has looked with any interaction with them four at all. He was the one that accepted the challenge. He really showed fire and got into the face of Rock and Roman. And I think I put on X, like, Yusuf and I was going back and forth. And I was just saying, like, you can only laugh through your feuds for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And, like, we know when he shows up and he's serious, Seth, he is money. And he did it again on Friday. To the point where Rock looked the best out of that segment because of his entrance, because he hit his line at the end about "you were a mistake." I think Seth was probably a close second. But probably the and he doesn't need it right now, but probably the bigger question is, when is Roman going to show that he's Roman? Roman ain't been Romaning since Rock has been back. I don't know if that's also part of the story that they're trying to show, but he's not adding much to these segments at all. So, like, I think if you look at, like, hey, who looked the best? I think you can argue any of those three looked the best out of Cody, Seth, and Rock. But who looked the worst? I think universally it was Roman. I think some people still may say Seth.
Even sweatpants.
But no, I mean that's
no.
I'm not talking about that.
I feel aura Seth was probably at the bottom. Would you say that this is his best showing of them together? Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to argue that. But I still feel like one didn't belong in that segment, and it was Seth to me.
Yeah, see, I don't see that. I think it's Roman, and I think it's because you can tell he's playing. We're so used to him being the main character. So anytime you have to see a main character kind of like play the sideline, it's a little jarring. And I wonder if he's trying to figure out in real time also how to come across like on camera. Because there's some things that The Rock just does, because The Rock has been doing it for decades and decades. You can tell like he knows how to present himself even when he's not talking. He knows how to present himself really, really well. Outside of the majority of time where like the bloodlines in the ring together and then he's off to the side a little bit. That's done on purpose. I'm talking the presentation of himself on camera. You can tell he knows how to do that better than anyone else that he's in the ring with. And I wonder if Roman's just trying to kind of figure out a little bit like how much to give The Rock, but still come across as that guy. And that's going to be interesting to see where that plays into the story, because Cody was planting the seeds about, hey, it's interesting, like, who's the top guy here, right? Like, the Rock is the one who's giving out this challenge, and you acknowledged Roman as your tribal chief last week. And then Rock said something that was interesting, and I got to ask you guys, what do you think he meant by that? So, when The Rock acknowledged Roman 2 weeks ago,
okay,
he said afterwards, I acknowledge you, some to the fact of the family acknowledges you, or I acknowledge you as a family for the tribal chief. And then he said it again when Cody kind of pressed him like, hey, you acknowledged him last week. He said it again. He said something to the fact of
the family.
That's what the family does, or that's what family does.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he meant by that? Because that's 2 times now, which means that's part of the story. And do you think what's the payoff for him continue to say, like, that's what the family does?
I don't necessarily feel like Rock is still in the ruse, like I said a couple of weeks ago, as far as turning on Roman. I still think it's going to happen, but I don't feel as strong about it as I did a couple of weeks ago. Just, again, this is just how good Rock is, right? He gets you to believe what he wants you to believe. But I don't think there's much to the whole family thing, because Rock's whole gimmick since he's been back has been about family. So I don't think necessarily anything of that in those statements, but I did notice them because he said them both times. But to me, it's more of, where we're going to go with this. I think maybe it could then turn into, I'm still the best then for the family. I'm being The Rock. Maybe not so much, again, an alliance with Cody, alliance with Seth, but more of, no, this is my family. Because he always makes sure when he talks about Roman's grandfather, he always talk about his grandfather, the high chief, and he always pause it. He always sticks it and makes sure you know who was the better grandfather. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. Really quick before I answer the question, I just want to go back about Rock overshadowing Roman in that segment. I think it's because of how over the top and big of a personality as Rock is. Like, the way he looks, he's like the biggest dude out there. And he's showing it off, right? He got his little custom made. I don't know if they make vests like that. Maybe they do.
If they do, right? I ain't never seen it.
Right? He got his custom made anyway. Versace vest to show off the guns. He's the only person in the ring with his chest out, right? You know, he got the glasses out there. He got the big personality, you know, and Roman has a charisma about him, but I don't want to say it's a very calm. Right, he's not an over the top guy. Look at the way he dresses. Like, we talk about the sweatpants. He's been wearing the sweatpants his entire run as a top guy in the industry. Like, nothing's changed. He doesn't have an over the top persona. Like, right, he makes very snarky and funny comments, but he's not over the top with it. He just has that persona. It kind of reminds me, as you were talking about it, man. I always like recognize, like, with the two of us, right, when we're together. Like, you know, back in the day, see, like, Rhodesia is all about Matt. Like, Matt is like her perfect man, whatever, right? But back in my day, I was kind of the hot boy, and like women, ladies like Big Daddy back in the day, right? But when Matt and I were together,
and for you because you used to also look just like Omarion, and
this
is when like
that's
B2K
right.
was high, and
Yeah.
Omarion was on his touch phase, which was killing the game in the streets. He had his hair braided. He looked like Omarion, like to the point where we would go out and be like, you know, we would be out wherever, and it was like that's how people would notate E. They'd be like, you know, the one that looks like Omarion.
It was great. I think some people actually thought I was him sometimes. It was really weird when people would stare at me. But say this, when Matt and I was together, the attention was all on Matt. Because Matt has this personality that's just inviting. It's like he's like a light, like a warm light, and it just draws people to him. He's so charismatic. He's so well-spoken. He's so inclusive that he just draws people.
Now I know how you felt when you was watching SmackDown. And Ethan looked right at you and said, you don't look as old as Randy Orton. See, now whatever you need, E, I got you now. You just made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I understand. So whatever he asks you, just Give me that favor.
Just give
I'll pay it off for you. There you go. It's all good.
But that's what it reminded me of, because I felt like, all right, he has a charisma of his own, but this guy has such a big personality. It just draws people to him. And I think that's what I think about The Rock. The Rock just has the biggest personality in the room. And to be quite honest, I think the second biggest personality, right, it can be overbearing at times. People like it or maybe not like it, is Seth. Right? Seth has a really, like, you think about people, right? We know friends, right, and family who maybe aren't as charisma and inclusive as Matt, but they talk just as big as Matt, right? Sometimes maybe talk even bigger than Matt, right? But then they're the voices you hear. That's what Seth reminds me of. He's like that person in the group that just talks the loudest, right? And you hear him because he's always talking. Now, sometimes it's obnoxious, sometimes you're with it. But I thought in that segment, right, Seth was the second biggest personality, right? Now, you think about Cody, like, right? Cody's more like me, like real low key, right? Real low key, humble. You say what it is, and that's it. And also Roman has a very calm presence to him. And I think he's also just waiting Biden's time. And I think that goes into a great story that they can continue to tell. I think maybe they are telling that story because you talk about The Rock, right? You said the family aspect of it. Rock, I'm doing this for the family. I'm not doing this for Roman. I'm not doing this for Paul. I'm doing this for the family because right now in this moment, this is what's best. But you could see there's going to come a time when Roman slips up or something not right, he's coming for that spot because that's what's best for the family, is for him coming for that spot. Roman, in the same time, he's a smart man. He sees what's happening. So right now, it seems like they're in an alliance of convenience, and I think you're going to see that struggle play out over the course of the year.
So, okay, you brought up the part of the Cody piece and like Seth being the loudest. So let's talk about, to me, which was at face value, because as with every Bloodline segment, the first time you watch it, you didn't catch everything. It's impossible. Like, and then some of these things we may be reading more into than is really there. Some things are Easter eggs. Seth was the one that agreed to the match. And Cody looked at Seth with a look of either he didn't want to accept the match, or why did you speak for me? It was not of glee and happiness, and his arm was around him and was like, yeah, we're going to beat you guys. And this is after Rock put it on thick. Cody, if you don't win your match on Sunday, you're never getting a shot again at that title. And Seth, I'll make your title go away. So he put it on thick. Cody had a real, it wasn't even inquisitive, I would say a worry look on his face when Seth accepted. What do y'all think that was about?
Everything that I didn't notice it. But now that you say that, I felt the energy wasn't of excitement, so I can say that much. But I think everything is done by design, especially if it has anything to do with Paul Heyman too. So if we know Roman Bloodline, Paul Heyman, the Wise Man, I know every single thing is already, there's a seed planted there somewhere.
Oh, I definitely noticed it because I like this kind of stuff. I like the character-driven pieces. I think it was there to add some intrigue to it. I don't know if they're going to play into it. We're going to see it play out. I think it's just one of those things where Cody, because if you think about it, man, like, you know, these two have been rivals since Cody's been back with the company, right? Mm-hmm. And now he has to trust this man who was coming for his head just a few months ago, right? Or was making slick comments, right? So it's like he got this look to me like, man, can I really trust this dude to do the right thing? Like, right? Like, and it's like that warrior look like, man, I know where this is going, but it's the place I need to be, right? So, and I'm just putting storyline in my head about what that look meant. But I definitely saw it, but it can mean a lot of different things. But I think that everyone in that ring is so smart that they're adding these little nuances to what's happening to kind of make you ask those questions, right? We may never get the answers, but it's just, if you notice it, it gives you just a little bit to think and kind of and be intrigued about.
And if we notice it, it's there for a reason. It ain't happenstance, right? Because that's what you would think, E. Like, what you just said is the common sense answer to me of like, oh, because they've been beefed out and now Cody's just double thinking to himself, like, man, can I trust him? But Cody just came out, I think, on Raw and said Seth was his friend. So, like, if he didn't drop that line, then maybe, okay, there could still be a little bit more of that angst. But I feel like they're kind of past that on the story.
I say sometimes people are my friend all the time, but they're not really, right? Like, that's my friend, right? Like, but I just met the dude, like, 2 minutes ago.
So you
know
are
what I'm saying?
You are in the story you told earlier. I'll be damned. You are.
You say nice things. You say nice things all the time.
You know what I also think is fun too? Like, maybe we should do this on one of our episodes. Like, pick somebody in wrestling who is like a baby face and make them a heel. Or like pick somebody who's a heel and make them a baby face. Because if we wanted to, all 4 of those characters, we could flip-flop them. And like for Cody, like if you say, all right, Matt, next episode, bring to the table why Cody Rhodes is a heel in this story. I could do that. If you guys said, hey, bring to the table next podcast why The Rock is a babyface in this, you could do that. And to me, those are like your best story. Not tweeners, but where you can pick out a character or wrestler and understand their motives to the point where you can flip them, like Joker. Yes, Joker is a massive heel, but Joker also can be a babyface in a lot of people's eyes. If you look at his backstory and what he went through and all that kind of stuff, it's like, oh no, he's just from that lens, he's a heel, but he's a babyface.
No, he's a heel. It's not baby face about that man.
But Joaquin Phoenix Joker is a face all the way.
You know what? Every time I go to turn that movie on, I fall asleep within the first 5 minutes. Every time I turn that movie, not because it's boring. I don't know what it is. Like every time, I have not been able to watch that movie.
Watch it.
I need to watch it. I bought the damn movie, man. It's the funny thing. It's still in the wrapping.
I'll tell you this, Eshaun. The first time we watched Joker at the movie theater, I said I would probably never watch that movie ever again because it was so dark and sad and like it brings you to hopelessness. But we watched it again another time, and then that time I could appreciate it for how great the movie really is. But that movie is a masterpiece. Like there's nothing heel about Joker, Joaquin Phoenix Joker, nothing at all.
It's good.
That must be a different twist on the origin. I have to check it out.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's completely different than for the most part. But yeah, I love the segment. I think there was more questions and answers outside of the tag.
We got an
match.
answer.
Now,
we got the answer.
We got that answer. Yep. But in terms of other parts of it, so now we got that. So let's talk a little bit about how that leads to night 2.
I don't think there's any way that there's not going to be bloodline rules the next night. So I don't care what we have to do in the first match of night 1. We're going to have tomfoolery on night 2. We're going to have to.
We need it.
So does that automatically mean Seth takes the fall in night 2 against Drew?
You can't. I don't know. I got to think about that. Yes. But I think Drew was winning anyways. So I think regardless of the bloodline storyline and in that match, I think Seth was going to drop it to Drew anyways.
Damn. So like, I think from a fan perspective, I want Drew to win the championship. But there's also like the smart wrestling fan. You're like, damn, like we don't know if Drew signed, how long he'll be with the company. I don't think they're giving him the damn title if he's on his way out.
And him continue to bring up CM Punk.
Like, I mean, he could drop it to CM Punk. Maybe that could be the next thing, right? And now we got CM Punk and a Seth or whatever the case may be. But you would think like Seth has to lose twice, right? Or we can see, Cody, some kind of mishap happens, and and Cody takes the pin. So now it creates further doubt. Night 1, he takes the pin and creates like further vulnerability that he may or may not win on night 2. Because you kind of always want to kind of like, so right now I think most people think that Cody's winning night 2, like he has to. And I think you always kind of want to put that question mark in people's head, like, well, maybe not, right? And maybe if Cody takes the pin, it might kind of make people think he might lose the second night. It can go. It's going to be a very interesting night. I do believe that we're going to get a Cody with an arm raise on night 2. It's just very interesting how we get there from night 1.
And I think too that we only know that because in any type of storytelling, at the end of the day, good always beats evil. Right? We don't know if this is the end of the
Infinity
book
War,
for
no.
that for night 2.
But
We don't know that part, but we do know, to your point about Cody. Well, Cody's eventually got to win because he's good and he's got to defeat the evil. I get my point of asking that question about the Seth piece and the Drew is because Drew is going to be the only wrestler out of those 3 that they're not pulling double duty. He's not working night 1.
And
So
it's be another thing that Drew has to win. Just off of that alone. Yeah, just off of that alone. He's fresh. And that's probably why Cody had that little look like he did, too, about accepting that match. So,
because even down to at the end of Raw, which I thought was great, Drew is outside the ring. Seth comes running past Drew. His main event opponent at WrestleMania to go help Cody and deal with the whole Jade and bloodline stuff. And then he cracks him in the head afterwards. And it's like, man, you better get your mind right. Like,
Yep.
I'm the one you need to be worried about.
Yep.
I think that's awesome storytelling because there's no way that you can have Seth win and Cody win night 2 after they both worked Rock and Roman night 1. So I don't know if there's going to be an injury angle or something that gives, Seth that out of I wasn't 100%, and then we can run some rematches back over the next couple months between Seth and Drew. I don't know how that plays out, but I think they've set the table well. We talked about it every single week. We know this was a pivot, but boy, oh boy, did this work out better than I feel like at this point, this has worked out better than the original plan. Because I think we're still going to get Rock and Roman eventually. I don't even want it to be rushed. There was some noise out there. I think Dave Meltzer, so take it with a grain of salt, talked about they're going back to Saudi in May. I think it's like May 24th or May 25th. And WWE wants The Rock to work that show. So then if you put 2 and 2 together, there were people saying like, oh, that could be Rock and Roman. No, to me, that's way too early. The way they're telling this story, and I know they'll do what's right, but give me a long build. If Rock's body can handle waiting until next year's WrestleMania, that Rock and Roman does not need to be on a Saudi show.
I agree. Again, I told you when this first was teased, Rock and Roman needs to be at Mania, flat out. If it's anything less than that, I think it's disappointing. Just like for the Lions, if we don't make it to the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship next year, I think it's a failure. So if you put Rock and Roman, if they ever, touch gloves, if they ever compete in a match, one-on-one, if it's not at Mania, I think it's a disgrace. 2 things though. One, you had mentioned Raw, and I did pull it up. As of February 28th, TKO Holdings annual report still mentioned that October 1 through December 31st is still open, that they know it's a top priority to get somewhere.
Talking about where it's going to be distributed through.
So this is what March 10th, 11th, well, I don't know what date it is right now, but February 28th, they still did not have a place yet, but they know it's a priority, and it said that they're not worried about it at all. I paraphrase that. They know that it's a reality, but they feel pretty good about it, is what actually the quote was. But Seth in night 2, I think it's going to be complete chaos. I don't know how we're going to get how night 1's going to end, but I think entering night 2, do we interfere in Seth and McIntyre? I don't know how that's going to look, but going into that final match between Cody and Roman, I think is going to just be complete chaos. Like complete from the night before leading on to night 2 is going to be just straight chaos. And I think it's going to end in straight chaos too. I think the whole thing is going to be chaos.
Yeah, it'd definitely be interesting. Like I said, I like the I forget what I want to say it was internal maybe, but I also agree with maybe everyone, all the baby faces that the Bloodlines had to kind of go through to get to this point, all come back and try to clear out the bloodline. If it is bloodline rules, you got, maybe KO, Sammy, Jay come out. And I think, you get those, I think you'll get like some good pops from the crowd when they come out to trying to get rid of some of the members and get rid of them. And then Jay comes out there, I think that'd be another huge pop. I think it just create like some more excitement for the actual overall match to the eventual hand race.
It's the Avengers, man. And speaking of, I had it up here because I wanted to bring it up, and I got somebody on your head. He really didn't speak about you, but I want you to acknowledge this guy. Shout out to everybody who actually checked out the Avengers clip we put up on YouTube, we're at 9,000 views as of this morning. So shout out to you guys for that. But I want to highlight Abe F7627, Eshaun. He's coming for your head. He says on this clip, and that clip was when I talked about like the Avengers ending, where anybody who's ever had beef with the Bloodline, they come back night 2 and help Cody, et cetera, et cetera. He says Cody finished his story, then what? He becomes boring. Oh shit.
Yeah.
He probably had the title for 6 months max. Give it 2 months before everybody who was clamoring for him to beat Roman complains about how stale his runs is. Why everybody? Oh, he left. Why everybody wants Cody to beat Roman is beyond me. Roman will go on to be the first to successfully defend the same title in 4 straight WrestleManias, and we will all acknowledge him afterwards, like we have for the last 3.5 years. Then he did the blood drop emoji. He did the one finger
our burner
emoji.
account.
Abe F7627. You might be the GOAT out here.
That's my burner account.
So Rhodesia, explain yourself. No, but that's kind of something that we've been talking about, though, right? I think that is a worry for some people. We've been clamoring for finish the story. Now the story is finished. Now what?
You go to phase 5.
So now I just ask you, E, and then we can move on to anything else on SmackDown you guys want to talk about. If it was you, the table is set. You see what it is. The Rock's involved. Seth's involved. Roman's involved. Cody wins the title night 2. What is the next feud that you would book to make sure we don't run into what Abe just said 2 months down the line? Now the fan base is over Cody Rhodes, and now we're clamoring for LA Knight. We're clamoring for Jey Uso. We're clamoring for CM Punk, who was just returned.
I think we got to stop being short-sighted as wrestling fans, because what we don't want is another continued backlash of Roman not defend. Roman's not going to be around next year. Not like he's going to be around at the same frequency he was this year. He has a new exclusive contract. He ain't around that much.
Mm-hmm.
The same stories that we're getting last year with Cody and Seth, we're going to get next year. We're going to get different things. We got different players and pieces on the table. I'm going to hope that they have a Drew McIntyre sign, right?
Okay.
We can have interactions with him. We got CM Punk. If this man, we haven't talked about in this show, can this man stay healthy? Because he had injury problems in AEW. Now he having them here. This man has a very, very fragile body. Like, I'm hoping nothing but health and recovery for that man, so we can get some damn storylines and some matches out of this man. But if we can get this man healthy, we got matches with Cody, we got matches with Seth, we got Gunther, which I'm hoping he drops that title, and then maybe he can go up to the upper mid card or main event level, and now he can have fights with Cody. Like, there's multiple options for stories for this man. And now we got a world undisputed championship over his shoulder as another caveat. There's a lot of different routes that we can go. If Roman were to win, then what? What are we going to do with Roman? He's just going to be off TV for another 90 days. Then he pops up, does 2 shows, goes to a PLE, same formatic win, right? Because it's going to be the same bloodline type shit that he's going to do, whatever. Pop up another 90 days at the Saudi show, defend there just to get the Mania. That's not compelling to me. Roman needs a different story and something to do. And I think him fighting with the Bloodline, with the Rock, or whoever would be more entertaining for him, because right now he's getting kind of stagnant. It's the same shit with them. We need something new as fans. So yes, there's a lot of different options they can go, because there's so many different things in play. There's so many characters that are at the show that are so hot right now. Shit, I mean, I might even want to see a Jay versus Cody match. But I'm not into babyface versus babyface, but we got so many characters that they can have matches with or interactions with that we as fans can get excited about. Let's get off the same path that we've been on for the past 4 years. and let's experience something new. Let's not be scared of change. Change is good, families. Change is good.
You brought up Jay, the merch numbers. I like to look at these merch numbers because to me this really kind of speaks to like who's over, like who's really over, because we're buying their merchandise as fans. This past week, number 1 was Cody Rhodes. Number 2 was LA Knight. Number 3 was Roman Reigns. Number 4 was CM Punk. Number 5 was The Rock. Number 6 is Jey Uso. Number 7 is Seth Rollins. Number 8 is Jimmy Uso. Number 9 is Drew McIntyre. And number 10 is Liv Morgan. That's a hell of a line. If you look at that. But then I think probably what screams out to me more than anything else is LA Knight's number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they're doing something with him, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not doing anything with him right now. We've been talking about it for months, man. Just strike like they need to. Once again, Triple H has done a great job. He's absolutely still had some opportunities during his booking tenure, but I think he has built up enough equity with the fan base where even our video I just talked about where we put up, what needs to happen on night 2. A lot of people who commented, and shout out to you guys, was like, hey, great idea. Love this idea. But there were a few people who were like, this idea is so good and that's why they won't do it. Or that's exactly why they won't do it because this makes so much sense. And if you're not a WWE hater, we have to now give them the benefit of the doubt. Hell, they changed this entire storyline because the fan base screamed out for Cody Rhodes. I think the times of us worrying about a storyline or a feud not panning out properly, even if it's not what we particularly want, I think those days can now be put to the side of like, it may not be exactly what I want, but they're going to do what's right overall, and it's going to be good. I think we're at that point now with WWE. So
I agree. I have something on Seth too.
Yes.
We talked about it on last pod. The curb stop off the top rope was against Omos at Backlash last year.
Was it the second or third rope?
It was the top rope, so the third.
So it was the top rope.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Have you had a chance, to play more 2K?
I have. Yep, I have. Really good game. I was really surprised that you were playing it.
Hey,
what do you think of the game so far?
B-Rad got the game for me. B-Rad's my guy. I've known B-Rad. Actually, me and Brad and Rhodesia went to WrestleMania 18 together in Toronto.
18 together. Okay. I gotta wait. So I gotta plug this story real quick. Okay. Brad, B-Rad. Listen, I love you from the bottom of my heart, but I'm gonna have to call you out on something. He is the biggest Rock fan there is.
Uh-oh. Did you see the comment on YouTube he put?
No.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll pull it up.
Mark equals Brad. That is who he is when it comes to The Rock. Him paying hundreds of dollars, now I'm exaggerating, to get a broken autograph case of the rundown DVD screen. Bought it in the hotel room to watch the movie over and over again. $28 pay-per-view in the hotel room to watch it. Biggest Rock fan I've ever met in my entire life. Do you know homeboy had a nerve to boo The Rock at WrestleMania 18 when he was going against Hogan? I was like, you know what? I'm leaving you here in Toronto. You are not getting on the train with us. I was livid.
I'm trying to find the message. Brad actually said he agrees with Eshaun. Let me find it. Where is it at? I was like, I'm surprised at Brad. I can't believe Brad said that. But basically
he
just
turned his back
that,
on The Rock again?
Yep, he said it's all about Cody. Let me look and see if I can find it.
B-Rad, what happened, man?
He's a smart fan.
Here it is.
Smart fan.
He said, "Hey Eshaun, I'm on your side. Hell with The Rock. His candy ass, not the people's champion anymore. It's Cody's the people's champion." I can't believe Brad said. I think that may be like Brad's burner account.
Yeah,
that can't be the real Brad. And Devontae said he is 25 years old, by the way. And yes, that is where he got his name from, was Jodeci.
Wait a minute. That's for B-Rad right there. And wait a minute. And Devontae? I got something for you too, fam. I thought so, man. I'm like, man, I His parents had to be Jodeci fans. Had to be Jodeci fans.
Yeah, he said 98, baby.
So, forever, my lady.
Jeez, 98 is 25 years ago.
It's like a dream.
Y'all got Eshaun singing now. Bayley. Let's talk about Bayley. Cut another great promo, and kind of, I mean, she's got to tell the truth, right? And she's like, yeah, I wasn't the best, but outside of some things I did everything for Damage CTRL, which led to the Bianca and Naomi backstage segment that I thought was great. What do you guys want to see now that they kind of are setting the table, right? Like Bianca, I saw some things about Bianca's turning heel. Bianca's not turning heel. It's not a heel turn. Maybe people have forgotten. Bianca was getting her ass kicked by Damage CTRL every single week, every single month. You just don't forget that, right? Like, this is common sense wrestling alert now. About?
I know, I just heard somebody with an ESPN alert.
That was from the media board.
Oh.
I was about to say, okay, what we got? I do know Mac Jones is about to get traded from New England. That's interesting. But yeah, so like Bianca's not going to forget that Damage CTRL made her life a living hell. So like this isn't now going to be a Bianca Naomi beef. My question to you guys though, what would you rather see? You already know what side I'm on. I'm still kind of somehow holding out hope for like Jade and Bianca. But do you want Naomi to talk Bianca into teaming with her to take on the Kabuki Warriors? Or would you rather Naomi go get Jade and take on the Kabuki Warriors? Or, third option, would you rather Bianca, Jade, and Naomi in a 6-woman tag match at Mania? So no tag titles on the line, but it will be those three against Dakota Kai and Kabuki Warriors.
I think they can make a play for any three of those. Because it's Mania, let's go with the 6-woman match. I could see that one too. Again, there's another exposure to get. If you can get Jade in there, you can get an exposure of her back in the ring, get in front of 70,000 people, 60,000 people, get her another at bat at it, get the feel of it. So if we can introduce her that way again, I'm fine with that.
You know, when I originally saw it, number one, I thought like, oh, I kind of thought that I mentioned this last week. I said, you know what? I kind of would rather see Bianca and Naomi against the Kabuki Warriors because they have a relationship, and I thought that would kind of make sense. But I also liked that with Bianca, she didn't, just because Bayley has quote unquote turned baby, right? That she didn't forget about them beatdowns that she had for 2 years. And I liked it too, because she, like, the whole thing, she was like, man, why are you looking at this thing right here? She gave him exactly what she made Damage CTRL. She made the bed, now she got to lay in it. Like, and then Naomi was like, oh, well, I feel bad about, and that's kind of true to her personality. Like, hey, I feel bad about it. I wish it didn't happen, etc. And Bianca was like, she shot back like, look, you ain't been here.
You wasn't here.
Yeah.
You wasn't here. You don't know what she been putting me through for 2 years.
You didn't go
like
here.
This. She's getting what she had coming to her. And then at the end, I had to run it back because she said it so quick, and I do that too when I get irritated. Right? You just say I do it. Like when you bought it. Hey, whatever. It's like whatever. I'm about to walk away. She was like, man, look. I guess at this point I gotta have something nice to say.
Right.
Right, and I like that line, right? Like, oh, I guess I've been too negative, right? Could I be in a situation? I keep it real too often. Oh, but I gotta say something nice in the moment. Good luck to her at Mania, right? And she kind of just storms away, right? I thought that was a really nice thing. I think it's going to set up and tell another story, right? That, Trinity is going to get involved in this somehow, right? Because she wants to have, her former friends back, and then Bianca's probably going to get conflicted. She's going to want to have, I keep in my mind wanting to call her Trinity, but when it leaves my lips, Naomi. But mentally, I'm struggling with that.
But you know what's crazy about that though? Like, of course, we know Trinity's her real name, but we never called her Trinity. We never
called her Trinity.
We always called her Naomi. But that year she was gone from WWE, I don't know why. To your point, Trinity has just stuck so much that, like, now to me, like, she's Trinity. Every time she comes out and, like, I watch her video, it's just like, no, her name is Trinity. Her name's not Naomi.
It stuck even when I found out years ago what her real name was, I thought like, oh, that's a pretty name. I actually like that name more than Naomi. Like, right? I was like, wow, she should just go by Trinity, but I get why she couldn't, right? Because trademarks, etc. So it just kind of stuck with me. But Bianca comes out in defense of Naomi. I just did it again, the mental switch. Right? And now it's kind of that uneasy alliance with her and Bayley, right? That they have to deal with, which is another layer of storytelling, for another point in time, right? Not from this Mania. And so you're right. They could go tag team. We get a tag team match with the Kabuki Warriors and Bianca and Naomi for the tag team titles. I might like that a little bit more with Dakota at ringside with the Kabuki Warriors, because now we have the championships on the line. I actually kind of would like to see Bianca and Naomi, become tag team champions. And shouts out to Bianca. She had a rough week. Similar week that we all face as African Americans, where people have racist bullshit to say and try to discredit like our accolades and things that we do. We all deal with these kind of things. But shouts out to her. Girl, you're doing a great job. You're going to continue to do a great job. And I like to see, two black women at WrestleMania win the tag team champions. We've seen it before. Did we?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Yeah. It was,
it was,
wait. We said it
Trinity.
before.
Trinity. Lord
Trinity and Mercedes.
Naomi and Sasha.
Right, but we didn't. Yeah, I said Trinity and Naomi. Yeah, we had Sasha.
We know what you meant.
Sasha and Naomi, right? But we didn't really get that good run because it kind of broke off soon after. But maybe we can get that with Bianca and Naomi. I'd love to see that. That'd be a nice thing, and then I can continue the feud with them. But certainly they could bring Jade. I mean, Jade did have an interaction with Damage CTRL. It seemed like it was more towards EO, and it seemed like it was just more so with continuing Jade kind of putting herself out there, and we're kind of having questions about where she's going to land. But I'll be here for that too.
So, and I think you just talking through all that. I think the six women may make the most sense because of that. You don't have to worry about putting the title on the line, so they still keep their belts. But then you get off, because I think Dakota should get a Mania match. She's wrestling Bayley Friday. So I think whatever the next step is, we're going to find out by the end of that segment. We know there's going to be some shenanigans, and then there's going to have to be some run-ins. So, now the point is Naomi running in by herself to help Bayley, or is she getting some help immediately? So that's going to be the fun part. And yes, I hate racism. I just feel like that is just the lowest form of... I don't understand racism. I get it. It's an ignorance of not understanding other people. But, man, this is fucking 2024. How we are still racist as a society. If you have talked to anybody outside of your race or outside of your comfort zone, you will quickly find out we are much more alike than we are different. So and I get it. I understand. There's always going to be racism. There's always going to be negativity.
You know what? To be honest with you, I kind of get it in a way, because we have a fear of the unknown, and we're uncomfortable around things we don't understand, right? You think about it, usually as kids, if we're unsure, like Ian, for instance, my youngest 5-year-old, if it's a new food, he ain't really wanting to mess with it, man. He got to stick his tongue out. He automatically in his mind don't want to deal with it. If it's a new food, right? He don't like it. So as human beings, we don't like things that are different, right? But we have learned as people, we are more alike. But sometimes I get irritated with certain people, especially with our culture. I feel like we deal with a lot of internal stupid stuff with our culture. This one guy said, I'm not even going to say his name, but because he had kind of deleted afterwards, he said, people are just overreacting to a stray comment from a few people. The problem with, being a black person in this country is that we deal with stray shit every day. All day. And it's not just the one stray, it's like the buildup of continually dealing with people decrediting what you are and your contributions because of the color of your skin. I have to continuously walk in and prove that I have to show my worth. Whereas other people in the same situation that look different, they don't have to do that. I don't have to keep rebuilding myself in front of somebody every single day. And that can be annoying. So when we talk about catching strays, it's not just the one comment, it's the multiple comments. I think Mercedes mentioned the other day that, you know, just as a celebrity, she wasn't really talking about racism. She was just talking about bullying is consistent on social media. Like, people are continuously saying negative things to her and other celebrities on a continuous basis. Like, right? And that, for their wellness, for their mental wellness, isn't great for them. And they had to learn how to be stronger people. So that's what we all have to be, is just be stronger people, right? Continue to do what we do and show why we're here. And that's in any means, knowing bullying, you know, racism, you know, we step up when we show out.
And like, and hurt people. I say that all the time because it's true. Like, you see so much negativity, you know. So to Mercedes' comment about the bullying and such, like, when I see some of those comments, it's like, man, like, your life must suck. Like, what happened to you for that to be the first thing out of your mind is to say something negative about somebody? But this also, to me, is a perfect circle of life moment to what we just talked about last week with Maxine Dupree. And I said, this is a really slippery slope of booing somebody because of their in-ring work of a professional wrestler and having this outcry of support about, we don't know how much this person works and et cetera, et cetera. But then there's like real, I call it like real life issues, right? Bianca's on the cover of 2K, and then you got idiots talking about, well, she's only there because she's black.
Yep.
Like, no, if you don't watch the product, like, what are you talking about right now? But we can have a long conversation about that.
And, you know,
maybe we'll do another one. That's freaking politics.
And God bless.
That's freaking racism. I wouldn't.
And God bless Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca, because I want to say maybe a year ago, a caller called in and said something similar about Bianca. Like, he didn't get the appeal of her and why they pushed her so much, and he pretty much said she was only there because she was black, and he compared her to like our vice president. And Bully was like, man, first of all, like, you're stupid. This ain't about politics. Third of all, you're stupid. Like, and he hung up on him real quick. He like, man, don't let jerks like that on this show again. And he and Dave just shut it down real quick. So shout out to the people who champion against injustice, and the people who face it. We just get stronger each and every day.
I just want to say one thing on that too. There is no place for hate in the divine. So that just means you're not a good person. So to Matt's point, hurt people. You're not a good person if you have any hate, if you spew any hate, if you think any hate. Completely disgusting. It makes me sick that somebody who can be as good as she is, that you can still hate her because of her color. Can't say, oh, you know, she ain't deserve it because she ain't been the EST. She hasn't been undefeated at WrestleMania the last 3 years. And yes, we know that they book for that. But this girl shows out. She's athletic. I mean, and again, not just Bianca. This is with anybody, but primarily with Bianca because she is a black woman. Like, really? So I don't want to keep this going because I can.
But
really,
that's where
really
the ignorance comes
it.
in at, though.
Yeah.
Because you're basing it nothing but off of a skin color of somebody or somebody's background.
Skin color.
Because you can easily we could flip this conversation and take it off of race and put it to economic status. Oh,
Absolutely.
you don't have a voice because you don't have as much money as
socioeconomics is actually probably
what
actually more than racism when you really think about it. Like, at least like in the United States, you're right, because you're in a different class than me, so you're beneath me, regardless of how you look. But on top of that, and like Eshaun said, every day we fight, every single day. I'm so tired of fighting, but I'm gonna keep fighting.
Yep. What else we got to do?
Because you're gonna know who I am when I walk in that room.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to control my narrative. But we can continue before I get really super hype right now.
And as Scott Steiner said 20 plus years ago on Monday Night Raw,
what did he say?
I'm going to walk down that aisle.
He sure did. Get in that ring.
And he also said, you don't know me.
You
don't know capable of. Scott Steiner is the GOAT on the microphone.
Yes.
Last thing then to answer your question, 2K. I played probably about an hour so far, hour and a half. And I skipped last year. And then when I bought the version 2 years ago, I didn't get into it a ton, just time. I didn't have a lot of time to play it. But playing it, I feel like, to me, and maybe you can speak to it because you play it every single year pretty in depth. While like graphics, fantastic. Sound is incredible. Controls are really, really good. It feels like to me like, okay, this is not like the final form of the game, but this is the game they always wanted to make. and this is like I said, I skipped last year, so this is me playing. This is my second 2K maybe in like 5 years, so I haven't been consistent with it. Is that accurate? Of like when you play it, you kind of feel like, oh, this is what they probably always had their mind on, the version of it, and they finally now got it to bring it to the masses.
You know, I don't think it's the final form, but I think it's the path that they want to go down, that they've envisioned for a path they want to go down with the franchise. And number one, I'm going to say, I forgot we even talked about the game. But number one, I'm going to say I love these wrestling games. I'm a big 2K guy, so take that with you when I say it. But I think it's a really good game. But I will say that if you didn't like 22 or 23, there's not going to be much that's going to make you like 24, because when I play 23 to 24, it's a very similar game. Like I picked up the game, I just played 23 a couple weeks ago, so I picked up 24 and dove right into it. It's very, very similar of a game, but I think it's great. I think it's a much better game, gameplay wise, than 23. I think the gameplay flows a lot better, especially with like the running mechanics and like the Irish whips. You had to really kind of time it properly, because a lot of times if you didn't time your grabs properly, they'll just bump into each other, and that happened more often than not, I would say. The gameplay is very much smoother in that aspect of the game. It's just overall the game continued to look better. They added the strike system. Was the what did they call it? The
combos.
No, it's like you slapped and I slapped, right? We see a lot in AEW.
Yeah, the mini game. Yeah.
The mini game, which I like when they first introduced it or talked about it. I was like, oh well, I'm sure to be okay, but I'm sure they'll continue to make it better. And actually, it's a nice first effort to the like little mini game. I think it adds an additional layer of realism. I like a lot of the quality of life things that they add to the game. That just makes the game better and make it flow better. In tag team matches, now a lot of people didn't like tag team matches. I didn't have a problem with them, because here's the problem with the tag team matches is that I hit a finisher, the illegal man always broke it up. Right. Like your tag team partners are always much slower to react than the illegal man for the tag. So they almost always got broke up if you just try to go for the pin right afterwards. I had learned some time ago, before I hit the special or after I hit the special, I'll just target the illegal man. I'll knock him out of the ring. He'll get stand. I did it every single time. Or right before I would do the finisher, I'll switch over to my tag team partner on the apron, and I'll run over and I'll go grab the dude and knock him off. So I didn't have a problem with it. I learned those little small things, but they've added some tag, like while you're in the ring, you can do like, you could press, I believe it's LB and down or something like that. You can kind of take control and send commands to your tag team partners to do different things. And one of them is to take care of the illegal man. So they've added a lot of little quality life things to the game, I think, to make it stronger of a game. So if you like 22, 23, 24 is a much better the game. Because, in the modding forums, some of our modding friends, they will say, hey, I'm not leaving 23. I have everything I need on 23. Like, this is a great game. I'm like, this 23 is not the final form of the game. When you mentioned this is not the final form, the next version is going to be even better. And they added so many different nuances to the game that just makes the game play more enjoyable if you are a fan of that gameplay. I haven't played as much as I like because I've been sick for the week. I've probably played about, I would say probably maybe 20 matches or so. Some tag teams and some singles. But I look forward to playing more. And then last, I want to leave you guys out. If you have not got the game, if you're thinking about getting the game, I definitely recommend getting it on PC. That is the best way to play the game. Join up with Discovery. Join up with those guys. They're going to take great care of you. Sign up for PWM mods, and you're going to have a great wrestling experience.
You said you were going to bring it up, and I forgot to bring it up. And I actually saw the photo. So shout out to our guy Grix, right? He got I thought he was joking about this. I still wonder if he's joking, but he sent too many photos to make me feel like he's not joking. He got a Tony Khan tattoo on his leg. And he had been talking about it on X. Like, he had been talking about it. He's like, and he had to like push it back. Like, something happened. He's like, gotta like push it back, but I'm getting this Tony Khan tattoo. He legit And they actually featured it on, it's not called BT anymore, so with BTDO, the Dark Order. I don't know. Hopefully you guys can see that. That's his leg.
Whose
That's the
leg?
tattoo.
So here's the I didn't bring it up because I hadn't asked him either. Because my man, I don't know. It's a grits guy. I think I said it. He said it was wrong. Well, that's what we're gonna go by. And
it
you
is GRIX. What else would it be if it's not
you
Greek?
gonna have to voice chat me, bro. And we gotta get it taken care of.
Grizz.
I've known the guy for like 5 or 6 years. He can be a troll. So I don't know if that's his leg, because like that episode of BTE was old. I don't think that's him. I think he's trolling. I think he's trolling.
But
I'm about to ask you it on X on the Discord. But I think he's trolling.
But if that isn't, let's say this, if that ain't TK's mama, daddy, or lover, that person's a little bit out there. That's the word I'm using.
Is that fair though?
Yes, a whole face.
Because there's so many. But think about how many people have Michael.
You got to be a
Jackson
loved
tattoos,
one.
Or Michael Jordan.
So we're going to consider fandom
faces
from Michael Jackson, and we're going to compare that to Tony Khan. You can't even compare those.
Tony Khan has fed generations through great wrestling TV, through the health of the wrestling business.
But Mike has done it through the millions.
If it wasn't for Tony Khan, Vince McMahon would have never got caught.
Well, he's a big AEW fan too, but I don't think he like Tony like that. So that's why I think he's trolling.
Let us know, man.
I don't think.
I saw that and I was like, that's crazy. That is crazy. Let's talk about AEW. A big week for them. Let's start with Okada. And E, I know you got some good stuff you want to talk about. How much did you guys enjoy or not enjoy his re-debut to AEW and immediately turning heel and being aligned in the Elite?
I am smiling ear to ear. My worry about Okada coming to AEW, which I thought he would be coming, would be, are you going to promote him, book him right, show him right to the level of what he is? And, oh my God, putting him with the Young Bucks to also be like his mouthpiece. I never would even thought of that or think of that. Like, as soon as he came out and he's looking in his suit. And at first I'm like, a suit? Okay, whatever. I'm still thinking he's just Okada, good guy. And then when we found out that he was part of the Elite, man, grinning ear to ear. That was amazing. That was amazing.
Hey, real quick, guys. Rhodesia put in the chat that a Bentley just drove by. Like, you guys live in the suburbs. Of course, Bentleys are driving by your neighborhood. I mean, like, what y'all talking about out there?
Not on this one little street.
These people over here, these people are rich.
So these people are rich.
These people are rich.
Let's declare that, please.
But I'm a wait and see it play out. I'm not against Okada being heel at all. It's just that the Young Bucks are playing their characters so corny. Like, they put blood all over themselves and they beat down Sting. That was very serious, but like their delivery, they seem so unserious playing these characters. Like, right? Like, I just don't know if they're gonna come off and that corniness is gonna rub off on Okada to where I think he should be, taking it very seriously. We'll see how he plays off of it, because like it kind of fits his demeanor, because he is a suit guy, he's a money guy. There's a reason why he makes it rain, right? And all the money comes down. The bucks, the money comes down. So it all makes sense from from a conceptual standpoint. It's just that the Young Bucks are just playing these campy, over the top personality heels. I just, I'm not here for it yet, but I'm not against it either.
That's a valid concern. That's not my concern. My concern was he was going to come in and help a babyface who was in dire need. Mm-hmm. And now we're off to the races. And then like next Wednesday, he's working X heel. That was my worry. And it's like, okay, well, that's not enough for Okada. So that's why I was so high on it. I absolutely loved it, because I didn't see it coming at all. I didn't think we would see a heel Okada. And what that does for me, because one of my biggest issues with AEW is the assumption of we all already know. Right? We all already know, and probably more importantly, we all are already supposed to care. And they didn't take this approach with Okada. So say if you don't care about Okada at all, right? You don't watch NJPW. Yes, I know there is this Japanese wrestler that has come over and has wrestled a few matches in AEW. I know he's called the Rainmaker, but like I don't know him. I don't watch NJPW. You're now automatically invested in him. Good, bad. You're not indifferent. So I think for me, that is why I was so happy with it. And it looks like this was a Tony Khan idea. So nice job to him of knowing like we got to put something on this guy to make our fan base care. And then of course, when we get down the line, we get him and Kenny again. We know what that's going to look like. And then when he turns on the Elite and he becomes that big baby face, now we care, opposed to him coming in as this guy that, if you haven't told me that story of who he is, kind of like with Ospreay, they've done. And Ospreay has proven, I mean, you guys know how high I am on Ospreay.
Match of the year candidate.
Bell to bell, I don't know how you don't think he is the best in the world doing it right now, but he kind of came in that way, right? Like he's got this thing with Don Callis family, but if you don't care about that, then just watch these matches. He's going to blow you away bell to bell. Okay, that's cool, but that's not enough. And I think they didn't do that with Okada. Now, Mercedes, come Wednesday, I am really intrigued and excited how they bring her on. We know she's going to have to wrestle some female talent that is not on her level from a name perspective. You know, like, I think maybe they're setting up her and Serena Deeb, which I think the match is going to be great. But if you look at Mercedes versus Serena Deeb, and that ain't moving the needle in regards to interest. It's going to be good, though. But they have a lot of talent that's like that. They just have to do something to put her on a pedestal that she is bigger than life. And that has to be the thing. I still think it's a miss. They did not come out, because I don't know why you would not. He should have came out this week and said Mercedes is going to be at big business. They're less than 7,000 tickets sold for that show on Wednesday. They were over 9,000 last time they were in that building for Blood and Guts. So I felt like, hey, if your idea was not to announce it, and that show, we'll talk about it more on Mondays, the actual big business card, it's like a pay-per-view. Show looks incredible, but when I would have seen that, hey, we're not at what we were at before, full court press on Mercedes to AEW, and let's go. Because I don't know at this point, why not announce it?
Because it's not a surprise anymore. So, like, it's not, we know people who can see the graphics that she has the boss, the dollar sign in there. You know she's going to debut there. You know she's going to show up. So you might as well broadcast that. Because, again, if you're not even selling what Blood and Guts was, come on.
Hey, Rhodesia, what's the capacity of that building?
I don't know.
I'm just interested.
It's TD card.
Google it. So, you know what to do.
Yeah,
I don't even know where it's at.
It's where the Celtics play. So their capacity for basketball, you're talking, 15,000 or so. They had it set up. So you know how it works. Or maybe like everybody doesn't know. So what they'll do, they'll come into the buildings and they'll size it for what they think they can sell. So like a lot of these buildings that AEW are going into are typical anywhere from like 7,000 seat arenas to like 12,000 seat arenas, but they'll scale it down to like 5,000. Or they'll scale it to 6,000, 7,000. So right now it's scaled to like, I think 8,000. But no, man, like sell those seats, put her name on it. I think it's too late now for it. But if there was anything that I wish they would have done on Wednesday's Dynamite is announce like, yep, Mercedes, Monet, or give like one of the, she's no longer Banks, but Tony could have came out and said something, about that show and you can bank on it. Something to the fact of like everybody knows, all right, Mercedes is going to be here. Because I think there's still people who live in Boston who would go to that show because they're a Sasha Banks fan that don't even know she's showing up. And that can't happen.
Wow. So we like the ratings for Dynamite came out some time ago. What do you make of those ratings? The decline from the pay-per-view. So we had a big pay-per-view. We had their full. That's the thing about Will Ospreay, the signings, that you can't say he's new signing. Okay? He's been there multiple times. But this is his first match as a full timer for that company. You had Sting, which is, I still haven't gotten around to watching the match yet, but everyone said how well the actual match was received. And then we get Dynamite, and we get, what is it, a 5% drop, 7% drop in the demos. What do you make of that?
Disappointing, because it doesn't equate. But see, so the thing about the ratings, though, the ratings is a lagging indicator. And which is what I mean by that is what we're seeing on TV right now is not going to affect what happens next week. From a ratings perspective, it is what we've been seeing from weeks ago or from months ago. Now, yeah, like if you're talking WWE and you're already hot and you say that The Rock and or Roman Reigns is going to be on the show or Cody Rhodes is going to SmackDown, he's simply a Raw person, yeah, you'll see an uptick because people are already locked in.
But you don't think we should get an increase from a major pay-per-view? You don't think people want to tune in to see the aftermath?
No, I do. That's why I said it's disappointing. But it's not like kind of how you just broke it down, right? Yep, it's after a pay-per-view. Because, like, the way AEW's ratings are, like, there seems like there's no rhyme or reason. The rating was just good the week before the pay-per-view. So you got a pay-per-view that was universally accepted as a very good show. To your point, you got Sting's retirement. We knew he wasn't going to be on the show, but you would think, okay, what's the follow-up? I want to be able to see what the follow-up is between Swerve, Hangman, and Joe. I want to see what the follow-up is with the Young Bucks and what they do with these tag titles. I want to see what Ospreay does. And then the ratings are lower than what it was the week going into a good pay-per-view. So their ratings sometimes don't equate to what we see. I continue to bang the drum of they got to get somebody hot and they got to get a storyline hot. That's the only way they're going to change getting consistent attendance higher and getting their ratings higher. Like just big names aren't going to do it. Now, for us that watch weekly, we are in for one of their best years ever, in my opinion, in regards to TV shows, in regards to matches. I think we're already there. Pac's back now. We got Mercedes coming in. Who knows when Omega comes in? So they have the talent, but in order to get hot, like it used to be hot, where there was a time where AEW was better than WWE television by a long, high stretch. It was because of the presentation and the character building and the storylines were hot and fresh. So that's kind of what I look at when I look at those ratings numbers. Like, damn, that's disappointing, but don't change course. Like what they did on Wednesday, I thought Wednesday was a fantastic show. I thought like when you watched Dynamite this past Wednesday, you couldn't take your eyes off the show. And I kind of haven't said that in a long time.
You know, I think this is a perfect segue into the question I have for you guys about AEW after Mania, because I agree. I think that I know I got coined as the AEW hater, but I think that most of the AEW shows are pretty good. I think this is a great time to be a pro wrestling fan, is that sometimes 7 days a week, you got 2 to 5 hours of excellent wrestling on TV, right? But I think that what's happened with wrestling, and this is AEW's problem, is that it's like, Rhodesia, what's your favorite meal?
Crab legs and a bottle of champagne.
From where? Like, is there a specific restaurant that you think makes the best?
Doesn't matter. It could be in my kitchen, in my mama's kitchen.
Your mama's kitchen, right?
In my kitchen.
So, be the dream.
So it's kind of like, you get to eat crab legs every day. Like, right?
Oh, actually, you should ask me this question. Don't ask me this question.
But you probably could. You probably could eat crab legs every day. For me, one of my favorite things is pizza. I can eat pizza every day. I love pizza. Love pizza. I can eat pizza every day. French fries is another one. Pizza and French fries is a weird combo, but I can eat both because I love both. Right? I can eat them every day. And it doesn't really matter. Too? Oh, yeah. I remember cafeteria day, we had pizza and fries one day. And I'm like, oh, snap. I'm like, let's do this.
Pizza, fries, and a chocolate milk. Think about what we used to be able to eat.
Chocolate milk.
Now imagine
when we were young, that she came back.
Chocolate milk.
I'm gaining like 2 pounds just thinking about it right now. But I can eat pizza and fries every day, right? And like it doesn't matter where you get it, I can eat it, and I'll enjoy it. But if I keep eating it every day consistently for weeks on end, after a while, I'm gonna start getting a preference about where I get the pizza from, how it's cooked, etc. And that's what happens with wrestling, is that after a while, you see so much of it, you start getting a preference about what you're seeing on TV, right, and how much you consume of it. And I think that's the bad thing about that's happening with AEW right now, is that there's so many people that are just watching so much WWE, and you got The Rock, you got the Roman, you got Cody, you got all these big stars coming on the show, and then when they go to see AEW, it's kind of like, okay, this isn't what I just watched a couple nights ago or last night or etc. So now you look at it with a different lens. I think that if AEW just stays the course and continues to build their show with quality wrestling, and, and decent storylines, I think they'll be just fine. I think that Tony Khan is doing some things to fix some of the problems they have. We're going to get into Jenny Pepperman signing in just a moment. But I think another issue with AEW, and people are starting to outline it, I think that they've conditioned their audience for years to only show up for big matches and big surprises. If they see that card and it's not a big show, I might skip this one. Or I might watch it later on.
So funny you said that. So real quick, there was a tweet. Typically I don't pay attention to like any overly pro AEW or overly pro WWE account because they just say what is going on with that show and it's not constructive. There's a AEW Twitter account, and just to that point. So yesterday, this account put out it said, "I love wrestling in AEW. For the first time, let me just get some things off my chest and say what really makes me annoyed and upset." And that's crazy. AEW's been around for like 4 years, and you're just not doing that. This account started September 2022, but that's why I hate like these fan accounts like that. Like, what do you mean for the first time? You've been around for 2 years. But his number 3 said, "Stop waiting until last minute to announce cards. I understand injuries or travel issues or other things can cause storylines or cards for Dynamite, Rampage, or Collision problems, but that's okay. You announce it, and then you have a backup for when things don't work out." And see, I couldn't disagree more with that line. Don't announce your cards. If every show is based upon, now yes, in sports, like say if we're watching UFC or boxing, you want to know the card, but this is wrestling. If I'm invested in your product, I shouldn't need to know what the card is. If you want to give me what the main event is or 1 or 2 matches, cool. But actually, I think that's a detriment to AEW when Tony comes out and he announces everything online before the show starts. We're going to hear from blah, blah, blah. And this is a match we're getting. And we're getting this match. And we're getting that match. To me, when I see the entire card, we kind of can tell now if the show's going to be great or not. Like, you can tell from the card if it's missable. And I don't think that should be the case.
And now you can look at that card like, oh, you know what? Not tonight.
I can miss this one. Yep.
I cannot, not tonight.
I agree with that.
Yep.
But I also want to make sure, because we're two different sides of this coin here. We've been on here many a times also saying that we need to know what match there's going to be at the pay-per-view as well. And I've heard a lot of times that people mention, we just found out about a match a couple of days before the pay-per-view or a week before the pay-per-view. So I just feel like we can't say
only
one
weekly
thing and
TV,
also say
not talking pay-per-views.
Yes, not pay-per-view. So when you're asking
weekly
me
TV, absolutely, yeah.
When you're asking me to spend $50 and invest 5 hours of my time, I need to know what I'm getting myself into.
Don't
from
give
a weekly
me 40%
TV
of the card the week before.
For TV, regular weekly episodic TV, you're right. I'm thinking you're talking about just in general. I'm like, well, no, because we've complained about not knowing what the card was going to be.
No, and absolutely, and WWE will give you, they're advertised like 2 of the big, things that happen on the show, right? And it's usually like the people that they're stars of the show, and so we know we're going to see those people in action. But I think that's one of the biggest problems that they just trained their audience to only show up for those big shows.
Like don't give me everything, because then where are the surprises at, right? Like, I'll give a perfect example. A few weeks ago, they did not announce there was a promo segment with the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. I know a lot of people aren't high on them. I could take it like it's either here or there. I don't really care about it, but they didn't announce it at all. When that music hit and Jay White came out, I perked up. I was like, oh, okay, what we got here? And it was just a run-of-the-mill, 5-minute in-ring promo segment that I enjoyed more because I didn't know it was coming. Now, if you would have announced that segment beforehand, like they typically do, it's like, why'd you announce that? Right? Like, and yes, we are WWE babies. I said that last pod. So there's completely different ways of presenting your product. But like when WWE comes out and says, on Monday Night Raw, we're going to hear from Cody Rhodes. We got Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. We got Jay Uso versus Chad Gable. And they'll stop right there. So when Sami Zayn comes out, it's a big pop. When anyone that's not announced, if something happens, it's a big, kind of like what they did, perfect example, for this past week. They started the show, and then they had a match that was unadvertised immediately after. And now we can talk about how they got to it and Did the match make sense with Joe and Swerve tagging together and things of that nature? But that's kind of more of what I would like to see from AEW. Okay, all right, cool. We're gonna hear from Swerve, but from hearing from Swerve, it got us something that immediately was connected to that show on that day. That is what I would like to see more of, because now, E, to your point, when you see the lineup, oh, that's just what's advertised. You got to watch the show to see what else you may get.
And because it resonated with me too, because the shows were in my home state. Well, I don't say this is my home here. I just live here, actually. And so Brandon, shouts out to him. He hit me up. Well, I hit him up because I saw we can get front row seats for a very reasonable price. And so that's kind of the reason why I thought about going. Like, man, I would love to sit front row at an AEW show.
You should have went.
And so, but I was kind of like, man, I don't know if I really feel like going, to be honest with you, though. Like, let me see what Brandon says.
Crazy, man.
Right?
Wow.
And don't worry about it, cousin Dwayne. Like, if I bought those tickets, I was looking at 3. So I was automatically assuming you were going to go. If we were
Dwayne,
to
they
get
put
these
you
tickets,
to the side already. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but the only thing I was thinking, I'm like, damn, because I was like, if I get, they wouldn't let me buy 3 of those seats. I think they were resale. I would have to buy 4. So I was trying to think of who the 4th man would be. Yeah, they was only let me do 2 or 4. So I'm like, damn, who'll be the 4th man? So we just had to talk about it. But so I was like, hey, let me see what Brandon thinks, because if you don't, because like I was kind of half out, and so I was kind of hoping he was out too. So I text him.
Nuts, man.
So I text him, and he like, man, nah, not right now. But then he texted me maybe like an hour later, yo, I found these really good seats. Now he found some good seats at a row that I like to see as a short man going to an event. Like, right, like I like to be upper level, like. Rows.
No, you don't like to be upper level. You like to be lower level.
No, I'm sorry, lower level.
Yeah.
Like, because like, I thought like A would be great.
You still
row.
talk about you were upper level at WrestleMania in Dallas, so don't ever put.
Oh
that
yeah,
out
we're not
there,
doing
like...
upper. I meant lower. Like, so I noticed if I'm on lower level, I'm like row A, like like which is right off the floor. If you think that's great, you're close to the ring, but you're still too close to the floor. So when people on the floor stand up, I can't see. I need to be a little more elevated. So I feel like rows D and back are good, right? So he found like the row G, which is usually, and they're really good prices. They're like $40 or something like that. Like, yo, E, perfect seats, $40. Like, you think about it throughout the day, what you want to go. And I'm like, at this point, I'm having an allergic reaction to my meds, and my back is starting to hurt. And I'm like, damn, my back is starting to hurt. I don't feel terrible, but I'm itchy because I got these highs from this medication. I got to drive for another hour. I don't know, man. He's like, well, let me know what you think. So then he hit me up again, like, hey, man, what do you think about where you at? What do you think? I'm like, let me look at the card. I look at the card, and I'm like, you know what? This card ain't something I want to sit through. I want to drive an hour to get to. This ain't a card I want to sit and be mildly in pain for. I'll just watch it on Sunday or something like that. I'm good. 2 years ago, this is how everybody in that area gets. Gas South Arena is where it was at. You were paying for the AEW experience because it was like going to a party. It didn't matter who was on the card. You were going to AEW. Girl, get your purse. We going to AEW tonight. Like it didn't matter who's on that card. Now it's like
you're sitting what was Jade's squad called? What was her
the baddies?
The baddies.
Girl,
get your purse.
That's the Betty section.
Get your purse. We going to see AEW. Right? Now I'm looking like, let me see the card. Like, right now I'm like hesitant on going. And it showed because I believe up until that point, they only sold like, I think 1,400 seats or something like that for the actual show. And it was like, this is hours before the show started. I mean, there was like lots of great seats available to go see that show. And, just years past, I would have jumped on it. So I think overall,
real quick, let me ask you. So let's say SmackDown is in town.
Girl, get your purse. We going to see SmackDown tonight. Woo!
And you said those seats was $40. I think they had just opened up that section up. So say if those same seats.
No, they hadn't been opened up. They had been there.
Okay, so say if those same seats were $150. That's probably about accurate for what WWE prices are right now. In the state you were feeling, but you're going to see SmackDown this Friday. So it would have been Rock, it would have been Roman, it would have been Seth and Cody's segment. Are you making that trip and paying those prices?
I said, girl, get your purse. We going to see SmackDown tonight. The Rock's in town. Cody, he there, the baby there too. Let's go. Get your shoes on, girl. Let's go. I've already told the kids. I promised them this summer that we're they haven't been to a live show. I'm like, yo, I'm taking you guys to a live show. So that's already on the docket. Is that we're going to a live show for SmackDown or Raw this summer. But that just goes to show.
That's a problem for AEW, though, because you are a wrestling fan and you are willing not to pay a third of those prices. And we know you're going to get good matches. Like, that's something.
But
I wouldn't feel that way, but I would go for $40.
Yeah, definitely, y'all would have been there.
Yeah, for sure. Been there. But that is crazy that you would have to think about going. Like if Dwayne and Brandon was like, "Come on, E, let's go," you probably had to get your arm twisted to go. Versus, hell yeah, let me drop 150 times 4.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But I wonder though, like, what can they do to change that outside of what they're doing already? Because E, right? Like, you just talked about it. Pay-per-view, you didn't get a chance to see all of it, but you heard pay-per-view was good. We got the debut or re-debut of Ospreay. There was rumors that Okada was debuting, which he did, but that wasn't like out there like that. So like, what more could they have presented in real time on Wednesday for you to have said, you know what? Yeah, let me go ahead and pay this $40 for these good seats. Or honestly, truthfully for you, there'd have been nothing they could have presented realistically outside of Mercedes making her debut in Atlanta that you would have said, I'm going to the show.
For this week, no, there's nothing they could have done differently. Like I said, I think I haven't watched Collision, and I'm a House of Black fans. I don't think I've seen them live yet, to be honest with you, and I love those guys. I actually wish they were Dynamite so I could see more of them. Here's what I think AEW needs to do. I think they need to stay the course with what they're doing with building quality shows. I don't think they need to worry about putting on 5-star wrestling matches every night. I don't think that should be a thing. Because I think super fans like us, we enjoy them, but I don't think they draw. Well, if it's just a match. And like a 5-star match for me is different, or a match of yours candidate. Like if you don't have investment of character and storyline in for me, it's not a 5-star match for me. For some people, they don't need those things. If it's just perfectly executed, that's enough. Like for instance, with the Will Ospreay, I think that man will be a megastar in wrestling. I think he has all the attributes to do it on the proper platform with the proper build and story. I just think, when you put him on that pay-per-view match with Takeshita, like that match was just put together a couple weeks before, and it was Don Callis saying, "Oh, we can't find competition, so we're going to create competition. I'm going to put these two guys in the match together." Now, if you're an AEW fan, it's going to be a banger. You know that, right? But if I'm not familiar with these guys, because they haven't really done a great job of building Takeshita or the Don Callis family, they haven't really been on TV that much. Will hasn't been around. So if you're a non-AEW fan, you don't really have proper investment in that match. I mean, when you see it, you might be wild by seeing it, but just getting them to actually see it, right? So if you haven't seen the pay-per-view, now you're turning on Dynamite to see those guys in the ring, you still don't have the proper investment in those guys because, again, there's no proper story and character. I think the AEW needs to do what WWE did, years ago when WCW was kicking their butt for years, right? Just continue to put on a great product, invest in stories and storylines, and make people care about it, right? Because it shouldn't be based on when they're coming to town, who's playing, right? It should be, hey, I want to get there and be part of the party. I want to be part of the experience, right? And you only can get that through proper building story. So for Will Ospreay, if he's the next one up, then continue to build stories that he can really sink his teeth into, that we can be invested in to see week in and week out. I don't necessarily need to see a match from him. It doesn't have to be a high quality of a match, because then you kind of set yourself up for disappointment too. If you're thinking that every time he comes on my screen, it has to be this match of the year candidate, and then when it's not, then it's like, oh, okay, I'm disappointed. Put him in great storylines and invest in him as a character. So I come every week to see him. I come to see that storyline play out. That's what we're getting in WWE, right? Like we want to see the Bloodline story. We want to see the nuances with The Rock and Roman. We want to see Cody finish his story. We're coming to see how the story's going to play out. We're listening to these guys stand in the ring for 45 minutes on the microphone. We're talking about, The Rock, talking for 20 minutes in front of a Cowboy stadium or wherever the hell he was at, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want people to get invested in. It's cool to have the matches, but they got to create some impactful stories and characters that's going to make people show up to see it, even when we're not expecting to see a good match. And that's something they have to do over time. And also, I think that they're realizing that. I think you're starting to see a little more advertising. I think we got a great signing with Jenny Pepperman. They recently released like the creative team that Tony kind of has in place. Let me tell you guys it's people on team that you guys can go from there. So Tony Khan said, I was in the office very late last night working. And Jen was one of the people I had in there with me, along with Will Washington, that's Matt's boy, Bryan Danielson, Jimmy Jacobs, and Matt Mazura. So I guess those are like his creative team that he has in place.
So Matt is the basically production director. He was the one that came over from WWE, who was kind of like in that Kevin Dunn role, or was going to be in that Kevin Dunn role when Kevin Dunn was going to retire. So he's the production guy. You got Will, you got Jen, who else?
Bryan Danielson, Jimmy Jacobs. Okay. Jimmy Jacobs is another. He was on the creative team in WWE.
See, so is it what you're talking about? Because right now we're just talking about like kind of. I think so. All right, first let's set the table. We all agree AEW's in a really good spot compared to maybe where they were a couple months ago, right?
Yes,
that's what I think.
Yes.
Okay, but isn't it also funny how like quick it changes? It's like AEW. They do a couple really good shows, and you're like, all right, quote unquote, AEW's back. Then they'll do a stinker, and you're just like, yo, like, what are they doing? It's funny how that works with AEW. But okay, so we all agree they're in a much better space. I don't know if it's I think maybe it's just the presentation part that needs to be better. Like, so you talk about the stories. Yeah, they gotta tell stories, but I think they have to tell stories in the way they want to tell stories, and maybe they can just do that via video packages. Their countdown shows are incredible. Mm-hmm. Like they'll do them every Friday before the pay-per-view on I think it's TNT after Rampage. They're fantastic. I love them. They remind me so much of like the 24/7s back in the day for boxing. It's like that real level of storytelling, realism, but still, wrapped
marketing
up in
and building a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So like maybe just give us a few of those videos every single week. They don't have to be the 15-20 minute promos in ring, because something that kind of stuck with me was Swerve did an interview a few months ago, and he made a comment about, we tell our stories differently. We tell our stories here in the ring. We tell our stories via matches. I hear that, then I think about Omega talking about Ospreay coming aboard, talking about Okada coming aboard. And his thing is, you guys think you're the best, then come here and prove it, bitch. Like, come prove it to us. I think about Ospreay, and Ospreay said one of the reason why he signed is because look at this roster. We have some of the best wrestlers. We have arguably the best roster of wrestlers in the entire world. AEW takes pride in their wrestling. So while we may say like, hey, you ain't got to do that 5-star match every single week, I think that's part of the reason why they love being there. It's because they can't go out there.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for them to do that, because that's what they're trying to do, and that's creating that week in, week out yo-yo effect, and people tune in and tune out based on who's wrestling. And then you think about it from a physicality standpoint. What these guys are putting themselves through their body, like every year. The reason why, one of the reasons why Tony Khan has to keep doing this thing with the roster is because people keep getting injured. Like, they've been having these injury problems like no other. I haven't seen another company have this many injury bugs to top guys ever. Like WWE, you think about it. I don't know what's going on with Seth. Seth got injured, but he'll be back in a couple months, right? We got CM Punk, who's injured, but what's going on with him? I remember TNA back in the day didn't have these kind of injury problems. These guys are going balls to the wall so hard every single show.
We got to be fair though, and we don't have to Google it, but WWE and NXT has had a lot of injuries recently.
Think
about all the think about all the ACLs. Charlotte being out. I mean, we can, like I said, we can. I know what you're saying. You're looking at it from a physicality standpoint, and the crazy part, those injuries from AEW aren't even from those crazy high spots, right? But like we've seen injuries everywhere. But like I didn't watch Collision yet either, because that was on last night. But I guess there's a flaming table spot from Briscoe, like that. What match on a taped Collision do we need to see a flaming table when we just saw Darby Allin drop 50 feet and went through a plate glass window the week before on a pay-per-view, right? Like, those are the things, like, for me, I'm like, man, just hold that back a little bit. Like, if you want to do those crazy, crazy spots, keep that on pay-per-view. Or keep that on, like, your big business show that you're going to have this Wednesday when you know the eyeballs are on you. But if we're doing flaming tables on a random taped Saturday show that you should have went to because they taped that on Thursday in Atlanta, then it's like, all right, what we doing,
Not gonna
fam?
be able to do it.
That's nuts. That's nuts. So we had talked about on last pod, you wanted to bring up kind of like, where's AEW at, the state of AEW in WrestleMania season. Rhodesia, where do you feel like AEW's at right now while WWE is smoking hot, on fire? Can't sell more tickets than what they're selling right now.
I was going to save this extra topic for next show, but I think it's more fitting right now. I think the state of the union, the state of AEW right now is solid. I think it is great for AEW. There's a couple of things. One, when WWE YouTube channel got their YouTube Diamond plaque for 10 billion, 100 billion, million, whatever it is, only the 10th company in the world to ever get that. Now I'm like, okay, first off, we're trying to compare ourselves now to apples and oranges. You're just not competing against the same type of person in your league. But then I go back to just thinking of the whole tribalism thing, because it really hit me about 10 minutes ago when he said he wasn't willing to spend $40 versus 150 times 4. And I'm saying tribalism probably in the nicest way possible. I've come to the conclusion as a modern wrestling fan, you have preference. Like, I don't think you have the capacity to be able to equally be both a wrestling fan of both companies equally. I think there's going to be a preference. And I think that just like your favorite kid, you love both your kids equally, but that favorite kid is always going to do something a little bit better. So the people who do like them equally, I think is rare. So how
is that why God only blessed you with one kid? Because he knew if you had a second kid,
possibly
you'd have thought that kid was not as good as the other
or
kid?
vice versa. Yeah, absolutely. But I just think that it's hard to accept, because Eshaun is a huge wrestling fan. He says that he's been watching it 40 years longer than I've been living. But to me, for him not to want to spend $40 to go see a great TV show, yes, we know storylines is not the same. We already know that. We've talked about that. We belabor that point every episode. But to me, it just tells me it's kind of like politics. Like, you're either one or the other. Yeah, you get some people who are in the middle, but overall, you're just one or the other. And no matter what that other person do, no, you're not going to go on and hate on them or post that video of that guy talking about some AEW would never, as far as being in the nosebleeds, he's about to touch the ceiling and showing that WWE has a packed crowd.
Nuts.
That's
dude,
hilarious.
Come on, man. You can't be a tribalistic fan and you can touch the ceiling. You can't do that. You can't be a tribalistic fan at a SmackDown show and you got to go back home and watch it on DVR because you have no idea what happened because you can't see the ring. We can't do that. And I went on my man's page and like everything was like anti-AEW, like pro WWE. It's like, man, this company's not paying you. Either one. You're not getting paid by either company.
So again, I don't want to go long-winded, but I just think that it's going to really just come down to your preference, because I watched Dynamite, I watched the Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay match, and I will hold that match to pretty much any match in WWE that I've seen. Now, was there a lot of story? It was story for them, and some of the commentators did have story about talking about these were friends. This is the first time now that he's actually about to fight Kyle as a much bigger guy. He was little brother before, now he's big brother. So it's just, I think, your preference, because I like that. I like those kind of matches, and I'm not going to say that I'm not going to spend $40 to go see that, but I can't hate on Eve for not wanting to. I just think it just goes down to like politics. You pick a side, and you don't have to be extreme about it and be aggressive and say, oh, I hate that other company, but it's just that you just have a preference. And I don't think we'll ever be able to convince somebody to vote Democrat or vote Republican if you're not that.
Well, you're not trying to get there. What you're trying to do is get back to where you were years ago and your product is growing. Like, they're making money on these pay-per-views for sure. And I think, like I said, they're talking about doing 9, a year. So they're consistently making good gates. But overall, when you have less people coming to your show in the market than when you did last time you came, they're speaking with their dollars. There's something that you're doing that is not as hot as it was before. So I think when we have these conversations, it's just about, no, we're not trying to get them to WWE. What we're trying, well, for me anyway, what I would love for them to do is get back to growing audiences, right? Like, I was looking, so they did 3,000 on Wednesday, and they doubled back the next night and taped Collision, and they did like 2,000 in that same building. So over 3 nights, they had about 5,000 people there. Who knows? They could have been the same people, but the point is, last time they were there for one Dynamite episode, they had 5,400 people there.
Yeah, so I've been there. Like, I remember the first time I went, it was packed. Parking lot was packed. I remember getting there an hour early trying to go to the concession stand, we were at the concession stands for so long. I got my food with maybe 10 minutes to spare to get back to my seat for the show. I mean, it was crazy. And then over time, I started going, and now I'm able to park right next to the door. And I'm ready to get in there. And now I'm able to get my food within 5 minutes to get to my seat. It's a decline of people. So when I say that, I get the preference thing. Absolutely, it's a preference. But I think it's too many people are preferring not to watch and to not to go. And ultimately, as a business, especially if you care about anything, you want it to grow. So, like, that's not good for people if people are preferring not to sample your product. Obviously, you have to do something. You don't want to stray away from the core. The core of their business, as I always say, is their wrestling. You don't want to stray too far from that. But it's okay to add ebbs and flows to keep people coming back, which are the story. They don't have to go create your story or to have a bloodline. If you watch, wrestling historically, I mean, that wasn't a big part of NWA or even WCW, but they had different, they had their own versions of stories that kind of get people intrigued. Like those stories that you mentioned about Kyle and Will, they're telling that story as you're watching it. What's the story before that bell run that made people invest and tune into that match?
He just redebuted though. That's why. So they got that story in as soon as they can. But AEW was an alternative because what we really wanted, our real dime piece that we wanted to get with, she was with somebody, so we're going to get the second best. And then what changed over time was WWE, our main chick, the person we wanted to begin with, they're back available and on the scene. They're single, so now I want to get back with them. I think that's why a lot of it went away. AEW, to me, at its core, hasn't changed. Now, we could argue that they haven't changed, but I think the same reasons why I loved AEW when they first started, a lot of that is still there today. I think just we as fans have changed. And that's why this is just so eye-opening to me, because what I see on AEW today versus 4 years ago is not much different. So for you to not want to go to a $40 show, there has to be something different. That different is we're getting that in WWE.
Well, WWE's killing it.
Yeah.
So, but that's the competition piece. Where WWE always talks about everything is competition, not just other wrestling shows, but every piece of content is competition because we're fighting for eyeballs. So when you're getting almost everything you want from the other show, I don't really now need AEW, and those opportunities could be even more glaring. Where before I couldn't sit down through a SmackDown or a Raw without rolling my eyes at some point. And I'm just like, man, I can't wait until Wednesday because I know I'm gonna get what I'm not getting here. And it's just flipped. But to your point, yes, I think they need to stay the course because they're in a really good space. But I think they just have to continue to play with how to not rely so much on who is wrestling every single week. And I think when they can finally figure out that balance of, hey, let's set up our pay-per-views, and that's where we're going to show that we're the best wrestling company in the world, that we can put on the best pay-per-views of anybody. But these week-to-week shows is all about getting people invested in the wrestlers and not the wrestling. Boy, are we going to be in for a treat? Because it ain't never a talent issue. We never have to sit here and be like, man, you know what I wish AEW had? I wish they had better talent. We've been there with WWE because because they sit on their talent so much with the 50-50 booking and nobody was over. We were always clamoring for, man, who can come into WWE and like change what's going on?
We stopped watching WWE for years. We stopped watching. I won't say that I'm going to stop watching AEW. I just remember some of the lowest that I've had in WWE, someone like you said, I can't believe they just insulted my intelligence over and over again. I've never felt that way about AEW. Yeah, I've had critiques about AEW because I think if they can correct those, they'll get better and grow. But as far as my negativity, there's been some times in WWE, AEW could never. How I felt on some times what WWE did for us.
I would say the one thing about AEW say it hasn't changed. I think that's accurate. It hasn't really changed much in the past couple of years. But if you think about like a sports player, if you got a sports athlete that's stagnant, that hasn't grown, like you start seeing a decline.
And that's
because other people
they haven't worked on their game at all in the summer, right? So like
because after a while, people start figuring them out, right? When you bring it to the table the same stuff week in and week out, people get used to you, right? And that's where AEW is right now. Like they need to bring something different to the table because we've been to the party a lot of times now. Like right now I need more than just a good time. I need you to romance me a little bit. Like, right, hey, before we can get right to it with no foreplay. But now I need you to rub my leg a little bit. I need you to whisper to my ear a little bit now, right? I need you to give me something more than before because I'm used to it now. Like, right, give me something more. They have to evolve their programming. It can't stay the same. It has to evolve, it has to grow. And if they don't do that, we're gonna keep seeing, I'm gonna keep going to Gas South Arena or not go to Gas South Arena. It's gonna be fewer and fewer people there.
One last thing, because I said a weird ass number as far as how many subscribers.
Don't forget they added Collision. So if they haven't changed it in 4 years, and you just added 2 hours of TV to your programming.
That's the question we should be asking, because I feel the reason why I fell in love with AEW 4.5 years ago, it's the same. That's the true argument. Now, how do we grow from there? But just to be clear, WWE has 100 million subscribers. I was throwing out some random ass numbers.
Yes.
But by comparison, AEW has 4 million subscribers. So again, YouTube subscribers doesn't necessarily dictate how many people's going to show up at your show. But if you look at that, that's a vast difference. So you're getting 3,000.
But that's still a really strong number, though. 4.5
million. Yeah. So, but I'm looking at 3,000 people in your arena versus 10,000 in your arena.
Right.
That would be on brand, as the new phrase is, for somebody who would have 4 million versus 100 million YouTube subscribers. I'm just trying to say.
But also, you got 4 million people subscribed to YouTube, but you only got 670,000 people watching your show.
But there's not 100 million people watching WWE either. I'm just looking at just straight numbers.
According to SmackDown numbers, they ain't too far off.
Because at one time, because of The Rock.
Speaking of YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube. We talked about the one video we put up that's almost it's over 9,000 views now. So shout out to y'all for watching that. But subscribe to our YouTube. That's Freakin' Wrestling. We drop, of course, y'all know the pods. We try to drop them within like a day of the audio, but we get them on there. We got shorts on there. Of course, follow us on Twitter or X at That's FNW. Let's go ahead and just wrap it right here because we still got a lot we can talk about. Think about it. We went 1 hour and 52 minutes. I didn't talk about Tiffany Stratton, which I want to talk about Tiffany Stratton. We didn't really get into Mercedes. We'll talk about Mercedes, of course, on Wednesday's pod because that will be the day that she debuts. So we'll go over Big Nip Business, kind of what we're looking at, probably a part 2 of this conversation, and whatever else you guys send us that you guys want us to talk about. You guys know
a Darby question on Wednesday.
And Rhodesia has a Darby question, which hopefully he's all good. I would hate for something to happen to him climbing Mount Everest.
That is my question.
Oh boy. So thoughts and prayers to Darby. That would be horrendous. So hopefully he's back safe and sound after working Jay White this Wednesday. So we got all that and we'll have more. So we did the plugs. Follow, subscribe, 5 stars, comments, etc., etc., etc. Thank you guys for listening. We out.